Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Greymond. Let's get to some questions. Okay, so the question that I had from yesterday that I didn't get the chance to answer is I am not sure if you have talked about it before, but can you discuss about sexually intrusive thoughts, especially when they're related to close family members and are irrational and blasphemy? So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. The reason why you are getting OCD thoughts is because you are afraid of them, okay? The reason why you're getting these specific thoughts and not some other ones is that these ones scare you more than the other ones. That is all there is to it. Just because it's sexual in nature and it's scary in nature and it's inappropriate and it's really kind of, really scaring you. And there's the kind of religious aspect to it as well. You know, it doesn't really mean anything about you. It doesn't make you a good person, a bad person, any kind of a person. Well, not any kind, but do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really make a difference on anything. It's just a thought that went into your brain and got stuck. Everybody else gets these types of thoughts from time to time. There's nothing wrong with the thought itself. It's just a thought that kind of just went through your mind. But if you pay attention to it and you stay with it, like you're trying to analyze it, you're trying to solve it, you're just going to get more of these thoughts, which will cause you more anxiety. So when you can, it's good to pick yourself up and say, you know what? I don't care how scary these thoughts are. I don't care how much anxiety they give me. I'm going to choose not to pay attention to them. Because the more you pay attention to these types of thoughts, the worse you will feel about them. So definitely don't pay attention to the thought. Doesn't matter if it's sexual in nature. It doesn't matter if it's scary in nature. Doesn't matter if it's going against you know, your morals, your principle, your belief system, everything. It doesn't matter. These thoughts are irrational and they're not coming from you. You know yourself that they're not coming from your real mind. They're coming from elsewhere and you're just getting triggered by them. So they say nothing about you. They say nothing about who you are. If a person who doesn't have OCD would have been faced with the same types of thoughts, um, you know, they wouldn't worry about it. That's the whole thing, is that it's only you who's worrying about it because you have OCD. you know so don't attribute anything to it, because I think that that's where a lot of people kind of fall apart when it comes to the sexually kind of intrusive thoughts and religious thoughts, especially when the two are kind of coupled together, is that people start to think that, oh my God, what does that mean about me? Am I a bad person? Why am I having these thoughts? I feel so guilty. I feel so ashamed and all of this. But, honestly, I hear people worrying about this stuff day in and day out. It means absolutely nothing. And once people recover, they laugh at these thoughts because there's nothing in them. It's just a thought. So, and if you ask somebody who you kind of trust and who trusts you, not that you should, but I'm just saying that if you ask them, do they ever have these thoughts? You know, everybody's had these thoughts. It's just that people with OCD attach a lot of emotional importance to it, while people without OCD just dismiss them as a weird thought. To give you an analogy, and again, I'm going to go with the car analogy because that's kind of something that can be universally understood, and at the same time, it's it's kind of easy to see the thought process with that type of OCD. Is, for example, a person is driving down the road and they they have a thought that, oh, okay, well, what if I go in the opposite lane of the like the other side of the traffic, and kill everybody in the car, and kill myself and kill everybody in the car. They get this thought. And then they think, wow, that's a stupid thought. That's a silly thought. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm just moving on. They don't even actually think that. It just becomes like, it's like an automatic response for people without OCD, that they just say, oh yeah, whatever, silly thought, not paying attention to it, moving on. So so they don't make it a big deal, and it doesn't stick in their mind. It doesn't come back again. But if a person with OCD got the exact same thought, they would think, I'm a murderer, or, I'm a bad person, I'm gonna end up in jail, my future is ruined, I'm gonna lose everything, I'm gonna lose my family, and go on, and then worry about it for days and days. So that's kind of the difference. Okay, so a continuation of the sexual intrusive thoughts question is also what happens when sometimes my mind is stuck with a few abusive words, and when the trigger person comes in front of me, then these words come at the top of my mind. Okay, so again, this is the same thing, that your mind is just sending you something to freak you out, basically, to make you feel scared. So if you pay attention to it, and kind of think, okay, I have to try not to think of these words, or I have to think of something good, or whatever, kind of to neutralize the thought, you're just gonna get more of this thought coming in again and again and again. Okay, so the best thing to do is to allow these words and these thoughts to flow through your mind, like look at it as flows in one ear, flows out the other. But I know you heard that saying before, but actually feel and imagine that flow, that it's going through you. It's not you, it has nothing to do with you. It's gonna come in and it's gonna leave. And the reason why it's gonna leave is because you're not gonna force it to stay by paying attention to it. Because when you pay attention to it, it's like you stop it kind of mid-motion and say, no, get back here, and then your mind does. It gives you more of this thought. So you just watch the flow. It flows in one ear, flows out the other. You're not doing a thing to stop it, because it's not you. Okay, and if it can give you the scariest thoughts for you. And you also have to recognize your theme of OCD. Everybody has a theme. Most people's theme is in one way or another harm. So harm OCD is actually much more common than people think. So you know that this is your typical OCD thought, disregard it and just keep going like that. Yeah, and the person says too, that in my rational life, I never abuse anyone, even though the person has done any major, even though the person has done any major harm to me. It is weird these come into my mind, that these come for my close family members. It's the reason why it's coming for your close family members is because that's going to make you scared. It's not weird at all. It's completely logical. Because if you, say for example, you dislike somebody, we can even use the word hate, okay? You hate somebody. And a thought comes in that, for example, you start to think these thoughts or have these words come in about that person, okay? You're not going to react to it as strongly, that because you don't like them. So you're going to be like, well, yeah, I shouldn't be thinking like that. That's not really good, but not too big of a deal. But if it's about somebody in your family, then you start to think, oh, this is it. I'm a bad person. And that's what OCD is trying to figure out. Which thoughts really bother you? Because it thinks that your mind is programmed to think that if the thought is bothering you, that means you are in immediate danger. And it's going to keep sending you this thought until you stop reacting to it, because you're obviously in danger and you're obviously protecting yourself from this danger. In your mind's view. That's not true, but that's how your mind views it. So the more you protect yourself by solving it, by getting reassurance, all of this stuff, the more of these thoughts you can expect to get. So it's not going to stop by itself until you say, this is enough, I'm not paying attention to it, I don't care how scary you make these thoughts. So, and that's all it is. Just really don't pay attention about the fear aspect of it, that it's worse, it's so bad, oh my god, that kind of a thing. Okay, and then I'm continuing to read here. The thing is that for this kind of OCD, I'm always surrounded by my triggers, unlike drive OCD, where I have to drive first to get OCD thoughts. Yes, true, but this is actually a very good thing, because you're constantly exposed to this thought. So you can continuously get better. Where the driving thing, you're only doing it once in a while. Maybe like once a day, you're driving twice a day, right? But still, it's not as often as every second of the day somebody's walking around you, like family members, this and that, and you're always being exposed, you know? But because if you react correctly every time you're exposed to the situation, then you'll recover. And then you'll recover faster because you're reacting correctly a lot more than somebody who's driving. Say somebody who's driving is going to have correct reaction, what, 20 times a week, for example, right? Say 30 times a week. How many times do you see your family members come in and out of your view? 30 times a day probably, so your recovery is actually much faster. Yeah, so just like you say, yeah, so he or she says, for me, ERP is happening 15 hours a day. Yeah, and that's a good thing because it's a lot more difficult to kind of get the courage to do ERP on your own when you don't have these triggers. So it's like, it's like life naturally built in these triggers for you so you could recover faster. If you look at it that way, it's not a bad thing. Yeah, then definitely don't avoid the triggers because that's only going to make the situation worse. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. I'm here. While I'm waiting for more questions, I wanted to talk to you guys about some. Oh, okay, one more. Okay. I have. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, um, I don't know what to really. I'm not gonna read out the question, but basically, I would say that I wouldn't watch any negative stuff anyways because it's not really doing anything for your life. You know, as a sufferer of OCD, you want to be focusing away from this and into positive situations. You know? So, um, it is also avoidance. It is also avoidance. But I mean, think of it like this, okay? Forget the other stuff, but think of it like say we're not talking about you, we're talking about, for example, me, right? I can be watching news 24/7. Oh, this person had killed this person, or this person did something to this person, and everything is going bad, and everybody's gonna die, and all of this stuff, okay? Or I can watch an uplifting show, okay? It's about something nice, like nature, I don't know. Okay? Which one is going to make me feel better after I watch it? So this is the same thing here, is that, I mean, I would suggest not to focus on negative shows because they're going to bring more negativity into your life. But at the same time, cutting out anything sexual or anything violent or any news or any action movies at all, like you see it on TV and you're switching the channel because you're afraid, that would be avoidance. But going out on purpose and watching this stuff is not really good either. Okay, so there's a with OCD, there's a lot of these kind of intricate situations where it's a little bit like this and then it's a little bit like that, where it's a fine line basically. So I would not avoid it to the extent where it's starting to become an obsession, but at the same time, don't seek it out on purpose. That's kind of my basic suggestion for that. So, okay, anyways, if you have more questions, please let me know. I hope I answered. And, if there's something else, please just let me know and I'll reply. The one thing I wanted to make sure I tell you guys is OCD Live is going to be switching when the show is happening. So before we did 11 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, which is right now. We're at 11:16 p.m. Eastern time right now. I'm not, depending on where you are, just so you know what time, the time difference. Um, so because by popular, there's a few different reasons for this, okay? So we're gonna switch to 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, and you can see it on the graphic here. So, and the reason for that is I have a lot of people listening in the UK and a lot of people listening in Australia, and it really would help if they were able to participate, and they're not able to because it's in the UK right now. It's really late, so it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, so they can't participate, and um, the 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. works a lot better for everybody. Basically, it's a happy medium and um, kind of a time where most people can figure it out. And another reason for that is it's a morning time. So since for most people it will be morning. Um, I find that if I'm talking about something and then you're going to bed, when you wake up you might not remember what I was talking about. Okay, and OCD usually hits people the most in the morning, so I do want to make the show as early as possible in the day, and 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. is the earliest I can do, so that's when we're going to do the show. If it doesn't work, then we might switch it to an earlier time, but for now we're going to do 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. I hope that works for you guys. Please leave me comments for that. So tomorrow morning mm, I'm not sure if we're gonna do one tomorrow or we're gonna start the day after, because we're just doing a show, so there's next show is gonna be in like 5 hours. But definitely the next day, and tomorrow is Sunday as well. So starting Monday, we're gonna do 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So just guys, watch out for that. Make sure you don't miss it. I'm gonna come back tomorrow at 11 p.m. just to remind everybody. Okay, so let's get to another question. I have a question about how to do ERP when what I'm afraid of is getting worse, becoming depressed, breaking down, becoming suicidal. I'm not sure how to do exposure if of the feelings that I fear. Oh, okay. So you are afraid of just get it. So you are afraid of emotions rather than actual situations. And honestly, I see this quite a lot, especially lately. So this is a very common thought. I didn't get it a lot when I first started helping people with OCD recovery. So this is kind of a more recent development that I see. But in the last, I would say 2 years, especially last year, I have a lot of people who are worried about that specific fear. So definitely you're not alone. And the way you handle it is the way you handle it is you need to expose yourself to the situation. So, what are you afraid of most? That's what you need to expose yourself to, okay? You are afraid of getting worse, feeling depressed, basically your whole life breaking down, okay? So you can't do physical exposure to that, but what you can do is you can do emotional exposure to that. That you can imagine yourself getting worse. You're already doing that. The only problem with this is you are seeking a lot of reassurance. So you're seeking self-reassurance. Well, okay, but maybe I won't be so bad and all of this kind of stuff. So you're kind of talking yourself into thinking that's okay, which would be alright if this was a real fear, like a real valid fear. But since it's an OCD obsession, your mind sees you talking yourself into thinking that, oh, it's going to be okay somehow, all of this. It will be okay, but you repeating it to your mind just shows that you're afraid and your mind is sending you more thoughts. So ERP is exposure and response prevention. So you're already doing exposure by worrying about the situation, technically speaking. Okay? But now to enhance that, I would say try to imagine it. So, okay, so how are you gonna break down? Okay, how are you gonna get depressed? You're gonna stay in bed all day, and you're gonna what color is gonna be your blanket when you stay in bed all day? Okay, are you gonna have any friends drop by? Are you not gonna have any friends drop by? Are you going to tell all your friends that from now on nothing is going to happen? That's it. I'm depressed. I'm done. Quit your job and start to imagine it in depth. And at the same time, do you see how I'm talking kind of sarcastically, how I'm not really making a big thing out of it? This is how you have to handle it. That you can say that, oh yeah, I'm going to be so depressed, but whatever, things happen, kind of making a joke out of it. Obviously, depression is a serious issue. Obviously, nervous breakdowns and suicidal thoughts are serious issues. But you're not having those situations happen to you specifically, right? You are just worried about things happening. And, you can worry about anything. You can worry that the aliens will land tomorrow. And, what's going to happen then? Would you take this seriously? Because it's the same thing. It's the future. You are creating your future. And I'm not trying to give you reassurance, but I'm just trying to kind of make you understand that this is OCD, and you need to do ERP to fix it. And I think you already know that because you do want to do it, obviously. So just imagine how it's going to be in all of the details, and then work on not taking those details seriously as you imagine them, and that should work very well for you. Let me know. Try it for a few days, and then let me know how you do with it. Yeah, then the person says, then I start to panic and I think, what if I just won't be able to handle it anymore? Yeah, and that's the problem, is that you're doing the exposure, but then immediately the panic comes in, and then you think that, uh, well, what if this, what if that, right? And the what if is OCD, and you're just, kind of ramping yourself up with anxiety and just making the whole situation worse. So the exposure you're already seems like you're doing, but just really try to control the response and be sarcastic with it, like, just like I said, depression. Maybe I'll get a cat. Maybe I'll get 10 cats. Maybe I'll be one of those depressed people with lots of cats. And I'm not trying to make fun of actually depressed people. We're just making a joke of the situation, um, to help the person recover. So I don't want to get hate mail from cat lovers. I love animals myself, so But um, but just making a joke, whatever you can attach to as a joking thing, do that, and don't take it so seriously. Even though obviously, I know it's hard. Like I've been there, so but that's kind of how you handle it. Because what happens is, when you do this, when you not take the thought seriously, your mind understands this to mean that the thought is not important, and it stops sending it to you. And that is your ultimate goal, is that to tell your mind that this is not important. Please stop sending me these thoughts. And that's how you go about it. And even if, for one day you take it seriously, you worry about it, you cry about it, pick yourself up and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going down this road again. I'm stopping this. I'm moving forward. And that's it. Everybody falls. Everybody has OCD thoughts. You know? So it's just about having more wins than losses, and that means you're progressing forward in your recovery. Yeah, try this for a few days, and then see how you feel, and then get back on here, but at a new time. Don't forget the new time, and then let me know how it goes, and then we can correct it, um, as need be. Okay, so the person asks, I realize it is different for everyone, but how long do you do this before I see the benefits of it? It depends how good you are at disregarding the thought. If you are very good, you should see results in about a few days. It's very fast. It's ridiculously fast. When you compare it to how bad you can feel in the moment, it just lifts. Because as soon as the brain stops paying attention to it, it just lifts. But at the same time, if you are kind of not so good yet at the disregarding, and if you're taking one step forward, then you're taking one step back, and kind of not sure what to do, sometimes you do reassurance, sometimes you don't, then it'll take you a while, because you need to be making continuous progress, to like progress in not seeking reassurance, to not basically not giving any response, um, to see the results. So when you get there, it'll lift really quickly, but you do have to get there first. So just kind of depends on how good you do. No, thank you very much. That's really sweet and kind of you. I've been there, so I'm really more than happy to help, honestly. So, and the other thing I wanted to also say to you, with regards to how fast do you see the benefits, don't give up, and don't judge a bad day to mean where you are in the recovery, because I see a lot of people have a really bad day, and then the next day they're kind of even more motivated than before this bad day to keep going forward to do more. So it's like, you know how sometimes, like, we do this in diets, we do this in work, we do this in different things in life, that when we have kind of a breakdown of in the day, where you feel just very, very low, it's a push to do more, and the person actually becomes better from it. Oh, that's too bad. Ray Rock says, time is early for me, but I can replay. Yeah, you know what? Also, if you would like me to answer questions for you and you can't listen live, email them to me. I'm not sure if the chat, I don't think the chat is open when it's when the show is not live. So email your question to info@youhaveocd.com if you can't um, join me for the live show, and I'll reply when I do the next show. Okay, I got another question here. I used to get a lot of intrusive thoughts about how other people think about me, and I used to ruminate a lot. But it has now reduced after doing ERP and doing healthy things. I think the reason is that I am a very sensitive person. Um, yeah, and that's most people or everybody really who has OCD are very, very sensitive, and that's the problem, is that they start to like, people with OCD start, or people who are, let's say, predetermined to get OCD or likely to get OCD, is they're too sensitive, they're not able to deal. And in today's world especially, you need to be kind of more like tough skinned kind of thing, how they say, right? That you're not such a softie. And sometimes that's kind of hard to deal with. So yeah, and when you're not equipped and you get overwhelmed, that can be a problem. um well, the person asks, do I need to desensitize myself and change my attitude? um Honestly, you don't need to change who you are because of OCD. You just need to change how you view these irrational OCD thoughts, because I think being sensitive is a great thing, and being understanding people and being nice to people, because that's what I kind of see with people with OCD. I've talked to so many people. I talk to many people every single day. I talk to people on the weekends every single day. Every single weekend, right? So I don't have days off. And I can tell you that in all the years, I've never met one mean person or not nice person. Everybody's very, very nice. So it's a good thing to keep, you know, well, you have to keep who you are. You can't let OCD change that. But at the same time, um, I would say that you do need to change how you're viewing these irrational thoughts. So yeah, but I think as long as you do the exposures, you'll be fine. So it looks like already, it's reducing after doing ERP, so that's a good thing. So, and you can see that ERP works really, really fast. So, you know, you'll see progress right away. Okay, guys, so this is the end of the show. Like I said, we're moving to a new time, which is 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I hope you guys can join me. If you cannot, please email me to info@youhaveocd.com. But just in the email, put if you want me to address the question on the show or off the show, just to write you back the email. And if, for me personally, I would prefer if you would allow me to to reply on the show. First of all, because other people can benefit from the answer. I'm not gonna say any personal information, and also because I can talk more than I can write. Basically, I can give you a full description of everything rather than writing. It kind of becomes shorter because I get so many emails, guys. It's just so it just would work better like this for me, and I won't reveal your identity or anything like that. So don't even worry about it. So if you have more information, you can visit youhaveocd.com. I also have ebooks there for sale. I do have my ebooks are also available on Kindle, on iBooks, on apps for iPhone and iPad. Also, if you would like to have private sessions with me, that's also available on youhaveocd.com. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the new time on Monday. Thanks and have a great day.